All right, hey everyone, and welcome back. So today we're diving deep
Mm-hmm.
into Semiconductor and whether or not their stock is something.
Interesting one.
Yeah, it is. It's one we should be watching.
Definitely.
It's a company that's doing a lot in the tech sectors that like everyone's talking about right now, like
Right.
electric vehicles,
Yeah.
solar energy,
Right.
all the hot stuff. But
Yeah, it is.
we've got a ton of information on this one, and it's kind of all over the place. We've got like earnings reports, we've got analyst opinions, some recent news, even some of that like insider trading activity.
Yeah, it's mixed bag,
Yeah.
but that's what makes this deep dive so interesting, right?
Right.
We're going to break it all down, try to see if we can make sense of it all.
So let's jump right in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's start with the most recent thing we have, which is on Semiconductor's Q4 2024 earnings report.
Okay.
And from what I see, it looks like they had some wins, but the overall picture is a little bit
Yeah, it's kind of
murky.
Yeah, it is a little murky. They beat expectations in
Sure.
some areas, but overall revenue actually declined.
Interesting. Okay.
So, to understand why we need to look at what they're calling non-core segments.
What's that?
So basically parts of the business they're phasing out.
Oh, so like they're kind of cleaning house to make way for the new stuff.
Exactly.
Makes sense, but I bet that causes some short-term headaches.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You see that reflected in the projections for Q1 2025.
Okay.
They're expecting even lower revenue and like tighter profit margins.
Huh.
Their factories aren't running at full capacity, meaning they're producing fewer chips.
Right.
Plus, they're currently selling more of their lower profit products,
So that
which further squeezes the margins.
really puts a squeeze on the margins. Okay.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see why some investors might be hitting the panic button here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
before we jump to any conclusions, what's the word on the street? What are analysts saying about Semiconductor?
Well, it's kind of a split decision,
Okay.
really mirroring the uncertainty in the entire semiconductor market.
Mhm.
So you got Wells Fargo feeling optimistic,
Okay.
predicting big growth in AI and electric vehicles,
Okay.
giving on Semiconductor an overweight rating.
So that's
Good.
good.
Yeah, but I have a feeling there's another side to this story.
Oh, there is. Morgan Stanley and Truist,
Okay.
they're taking a much more cautious stance.
Really?
Actually lowered their price targets.
Interesting.
They're concerned about the lower demand for semiconductors overall.
Mm-hmm.
And they're keeping a close eye on the possibility of new tariffs, which could really impact the whole industry.
Okay, so we've got some short-term bumps in the road.
And we've got a real mix of opinions from the analysts.
Yeah.
But what about on Semiconductor's long game? What are they doing to tackle these challenges and really come out on top?
Yeah, that's where things get exciting. On
Yeah.
Semiconductor is laser focused on those high growth markets we talked about at the beginning, automotive, industrial, and AI data centers.
Right.
Think about it. These are the sectors everyone is betting on for the future.
Right.
They're not just riding the wave, they're trying to become the wave.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that a lot. And to do that, it looks like they're investing pretty heavily in innovation.
Mm-hmm.
One example that jumps out at me is their new Trio platform.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What's that all about?
Trio is all about high-performance analog and mixed-signal technology,
Okay.
specifically designed for the demands of these booming sectors.
Okay.
Like, imagine advanced driver assistance systems in cars that can react in real time.
Right.
Or power management systems in data centers that can handle massive amounts of data.
Yeah.
That's what Trio is bringing to the table.
It's a lot.
It is.
And then there's that recent acquisition of Corbus's silicon carbide technology.
Yes.
This one seemed like a really big deal. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. Silicon carbide is a game changer,
Okay.
particularly for electric vehicles.
All right.
It can handle much higher voltages and temperatures than traditional silicon,
Okay.
which is really crucial for the powerful electronics needed in EVs, solar panels, and even those AI data centers we keep mentioning on Semiconductor is betting big on silicon carbide to power their growth in these key markets.
So they're snagging a piece of a very valuable pie.
Precisely. They're projecting a 30% revenue growth rate in silicon carbide through 2030.
Wow.
That's a huge number, and it shows how serious they are about leading the charge in this area.
That's a lot to process.
It is.
But let's zoom out for a second and look at on Semiconductor's financial health.
Okay.
The report mentions a target free cash flow margin of 25–30%.
Right.
Now, for those of us who don't speak fluent finance,
Right.
what does that mean?
Right.
And why should we care?
Great question. Think of free cash flow as the company's leftover cash
Okay.
after they've paid for its operations and any upgrades.
Mm-hmm.
It's the money they have to play with.
Okay.
Invest in new technologies, buy other companies, reward shareholders with dividends. A healthy free cash flow basically gives them options,
Yep.
which is always a good sign.
So strong free cash flow means they've got the financial wiggle room to navigate these stoppy
Yes.
waters,
Yes,
invest in their big plans for the future.
exactly.
It's like having a safety net while you're performing a high-wire act.
You got it.
Right.
It shows financial strength and flexibility, which is especially important in such a fast-paced
Yeah.
and ever-changing industry like semiconductors.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground so far. Recent performance, what the analysts are saying, their long-term game plan,
Mm-hmm.
innovation, even their financial health.
Yeah,
But no stock analysis would be complete
right.
without talking about the risks.
Absolutely. Every investment has them.
Every investment has them, and on semiconductor, definitely has its fair share.
It does.
So spill the beans. What are some of the potential risks facing on semiconductor?
Well, one of the big ones is the global landscape.
Okay.
Those trade wars and international tensions we hear about.
Mm-hmm.
They can really mess with supply chains and customer demand.
Okay.
It's a delicate balance. And then there's the whole inventory situation.
Okay.
Some of them, semiconductors' biggest customers, have a stockpile of chips right now.
Oh,
And if those customers aren't selling their products,
right.
they won't need as many chips from on semiconductor anytime soon.
Right. It's like a domino effect.
Exactly.
And wouldn't the ups and downs of government spending, especially on things like EV tax credits, also throw a wrench in the works?
You're sharp. That's a huge factor.
Okay.
Those government incentives can really boost demand for electric vehicles.
Right.
Which is great for on semiconductor.
Yeah.
But if those incentives disappear or change, it creates a lot of uncertainty.
Okay, so it's a bit of a tightrope walk for on semiconductor.
Yeah.
They've got this incredible potential for growth, but they're also facing some real challenges in the short term.
Yeah.
It's like they're standing at a crossroads.
That's a great way to put it. It's a classic case of risk versus reward.
Yeah.
And speaking of reward, the report mentions a fair value estimate of $68.18.
Wait, hold on. Isn't their current price somewhere around like $47 and change?
It is.
That's a huge difference.
It is. Fair value is essentially what analysts believe a stock is truly worth,
Okay.
taking into account all sorts of factors, future earnings, assets, market conditions, the whole shebang.
So what's with the discrepancy? If analysts think it's worth that much, why isn't it trading at that price?
Well, it could be that the market is undervaluing on semiconductor right now.
Okay.
Investors might be fixated on those short-term challenges we talked about and not fully grasping the long-term potential.
So if someone believes in their long-term strategy and can stomach the short-term
Yeah,
ups and downs, this could be a good time to buy.
it's certainly a possibility.
Okay.
But remember,
Mm-hmm.
you should always do your own research and consider your own investment goals and risk tolerance before making any decisions.
Always solid advice. But before we move on, there's one more thing that caught my eye.
Okay.
The report mentions insider trading activity.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically, it seems like several insiders, including some of the top executives, have been buying up on semiconductor stock lately.
Interesting.
So what's the significance of that?
Ah, yes, the insider trading angle.
Yeah.
It's always an interesting piece of the puzzle. In this case, it could indicate that those who know the company best,
Right.
the folks running the show, are confident about on Semiconductor's future.
Okay.
They're putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak.
It's almost like a vote of confidence from the inside.
Exactly. It's not a foolproof predictor of success, of course,
Right.
but it's definitely something to consider.
Okay, so let's recap what we've learned so far on semiconductor is facing some headwinds in the short term, mainly due to that dip in revenue and the shrinking profit margins.
Right, and those headwinds are making some analysts nervous, resulting in a mixed bag of opinions on the stock.
But there's a but here, right?
Of course, they have this exciting long-term strategy focused on those booming sectors we talked about, automotive, industrial, and AI data centers.
Right.
And they're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk with big investments in innovation,
Mhm.
especially in that game-changing silicon carbide technology.
And let's not forget about their healthy financial situation, particularly that strong free cash flow,
Right.
which gives them the flexibility to navigate the challenges and invest in their future. It's like having a solid foundation to build upon.
Precisely.
So the question for you is, do you believe in ON Semiconductor's ability to overcome the hurdles and truly capitalize on those explosive markets they're targeting?
Yeah, it's a gamble, but it could be a rewarding one.
It's a gamble. It's a gamble.
It is.
That's the million-dollar questions. You've given you the information.
Yep.
Now it's time to do your own digging. Weigh the risks and rewards and decide if ON Semiconductor is a company you want to bet on.
It's interesting to think about on Semiconductor in the context of their competitors.
Yeah, good point. We've been so focused on semiconductor itself that it would be helpful to see where they stand in the broader industry.
Yeah.
We've got a list of their peers here. Companies like Marvell Technology, Monolithic Power Systems, Microchip Technology, even First Solar, to name a few.
Mm-hmm.
How do they stack up?
That's a great question, and it's something investors should always consider.
Right?
By comparing on semiconductors' financials growth rates and market value to these companies, you can start to see their relative strengths and weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
Are they a leader in their industry or are they lagging behind?
Right. It's all about context. But this shift gears for a second.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the challenges on Semiconductor is facing.
Mm-hmm.
But let's not lose sight of the enormous growth potential of the markets they're playing in.
Yeah,
These megatrends,
right.
electrification,
Free AI.
renewable energy,
Yep.
they're not going away anytime soon.
No,
In fact, they're just getting started.
they're just getting started.
Exactly. The global push towards electric vehicles is gaining momentum every day.
Yeah,
And on Semiconductor is perfectly positioned to ride that wave.
absolutely.
They're already a major supplier of power management chips for EVs,
Mm-hmm.
and with their silicon carbide technology, they're aiming to become even more dominant in that space.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's not just cars. Think about all the other industries that are going electric
Yeah.
vehicles, buses, trucks, construction equipment, even airplanes.
Yeah, you name it.
On Semiconductor's technology has applications across the board.
Absolutely. And then there's the explosion of artificial intelligence.
Right.
AI requires incredible amount of computing power,
Yes.
which translates into a massive demand for chips.
Right?
On Semiconductor is already supplying chips for AI data centers,
Okay.
and they're investing heavily to expand their offerings in that space.
It's like they're playing in multiple high-stakes games at the same time.
It is.
Electric vehicles, AI, renewable energy,
Mm-hmm.
and they're betting big on each one.
Yeah, it's a high-risk, high-reward strategy, for sure.
Okay, so we've got the potential upside, but let's be realistic for a moment. What are some of the specific challenges on Semiconductor might face in these markets? Competition has to be fierce.
Oh, absolutely. The semiconductor world is a cutthroat arena.
Yeah.
They're going up against some giants with deep pockets and well-established relationships.
Mhm.
They'll need to constantly innovate and find ways to differentiate themselves to stay ahead of the curve.
They can't afford to rest on their laurels. What else should we be watching out for?
Supply chain disruptions are always a risk, as we've all learned in recent years.
Right.
And then there's the ever-changing regulatory landscape.
Okay.
Governments around the world are enacting policies to promote electric vehicles and renewable energy.
Mm-hmm.
But those policies can shift, creating uncertainty for companies like On Semiconductor.
It sounds like a constant juggling act.
It is.
They need to stay agile and adapt to changing market conditions
Yeah.
while staying laser-focused on their long-term goals.
Exactly. It's not an easy feat.
No.
But based on their track record,
Mhm.
they've shown resilience and a willingness to make tough decisions.
Speaking of tough decisions, let's circle back to that point you made earlier about their non-core segments.
Yeah,
They're selling off those parts of the business to focus on their core strengths,
right.
which makes sense strategically,
It does.
but it's not without its downsides.
You're absolutely right. There's a short-term cost to that kind of strategic shift.
Okay.
We're seeing it in the revenue decline and margin compression.
Right.
It's like they're pruning a tree to make it stronger and healthier in the long run,
Yeah.
but there's that period of adjustment while it heals.
Okay, I'm with you. So they're playing the long game here, making sacrifices in the present for potential gains in the future.
Exactly. And that's a crucial point for investors to grasp.
Okay.
If you're looking for a quick profit on civil conductor, might not be the right play for you.
Right.
But if you're willing to take a long-term view
Mhm.
and have confidence in their strategy, the potential rewards could be significant.
It all comes down to aligning your investment strategy with your own personal timeline and risk tolerance.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Investing isn't a one-size-fits-all proposition.
We've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
On Semiconductor's financial performance, their long-term vision, the potential risks and rewards, even their position within the broader industry landscape.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there's still a piece missing from this puzzle.
And what's that?
The human element. We've been talking about numbers and strategies.
Right.
But what about the people behind On Semiconductor?
Yeah.
What's their leadership like? What's their culture like?
Mm-hmm.
Those things matter too, don't they?
You're absolutely right. Investors often overlook the importance of leadership and company culture.
Yeah.
It's crucial to assess the quality of the management team, their track record, their vision, and their ability to execute.
And a strong company culture can be a powerful advantage.
Oh, for sure.
It can help attract and retain top talent, fuel innovation, and foster customer loyalty.
Precisely. So how can we get a better sense of On Semiconductor's leadership and culture?
Well, we could dig into their annual reports, read interviews with executives,
Yeah.
even check out employee reviews on sites like Glassdoor.
Mm-hmm.
Those sources can give us valuable insights into the company's values, how they treat their employees,
Right.
and their overall approach to doing business.
Excellent suggestions. It's all about putting together a complete picture.
Okay, so let's do some digging and see what we can learn about the human side of On Semiconductor. So you've been digging into On Semiconductor's leadership and company culture. What'd you find?
Well, their CEO, Hussein El-Khoury, seems to be a real game changer.
Okay.
He took the reins in 2020, and he hasn't been afraid to shake things up,
Yeah,
really pushing the company towards those high-growth markets we've been discussing.
right. That definitely lines up with the strategic moves and investments they've been making.
Yeah,
Sounds like he's got a clear vision for the future of On Semiconductor.
exactly. And from what I've gathered, he's also a very hands-on leader,
Okay,
deeply involved in the technical side of things.
interesting.
He has an engineering background,
Okay,
so he really understands the nitty-gritty of what they do.
that's got to be a huge advantage in such a complex industry.
Oh, huge. It allows him to make informed decisions and guide the company's innovation effectively.
You're absolutely right. And it seems like he's fostered a culture that values innovation and agility.
Yeah, definitely.
Employee reviews mention a collaborative and fast-paced environment, which tells me they're able to adapt quickly to the ever-changing demands of the market.
Yeah, that's a great sign.
Yeah,
A company with a strong culture of innovation is more likely to stay ahead of the curve and develop those breakthrough technologies that drive future growth.
couldn't agree more. And it's not just about developing new technologies.
Right.
It's about getting those innovations to market quickly and efficiently.
Oh, speed is everything in the tech world.
Yeah,
A company that can bring innovative products to market faster than its rivals has a serious edge.
absolutely. So it seems like On Semiconductor has the leadership, the culture, and the strategic focus to potentially make a real splash in these high-growth markets.
They do.
But let's play devil's advocate for a moment.
Okay.
What could go wrong?
Okay.
What are some potential red flags investors should be aware of?
Well, one concern is execution risk.
What do you mean?
They've set some ambitious goals, especially when it comes to grabbing market share and expanding those profit margins.
Right.
But reaching those goals requires flawless execution across every aspect of the business.
It's one thing to have a brilliant plan.
Right.
It's another thing entirely to make it happen.
Exactly. And the semiconductor industry is notoriously tricky.
Yeah.
It's complex and cyclical. They'll need to manage those supply chain headaches, predict shifts in demand, and outmaneuver their competitors if they want to achieve lasting success.
Right. And don't forget about those geopolitical risks we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Trade tensions, tariffs, government regulations.
Mm,
Any of those could throw a wrench in their plan
for sure.
and impact their bottom line.
Absolutely.
So after all this, what's the verdict?
Yeah.
Is On Semiconductor a buy, a hold, or a sell?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is.
As always, it comes down to your individual investment goals, your risk tolerance, and your time horizon.
Okay.
If you're a believer in their long-term vision, you're comfortable with the inherent risks, and you're willing to be patient, then On Semiconductor might be a worthy addition to your portfolio.
Okay.
But if you're after a quick return or you're more risk-averse, it might be best to watch from the sidelines for now.
Wise words. Do your homework, weigh the pros and cons, and make an informed decision that aligns with your investment strategy.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Investing isn't a one-size-fits-all proposition.
We've covered a lot of ground here on Semiconductor's financial performance, their long-term vision, the potential risks and rewards, even their position within the broader industry landscape.
Right.
But I feel like there's still a piece missing in this puzzle.
And what's that?
The human element. We've been talking about numbers and strategies, but what about the people behind On Semiconductor? What's their leadership like? What's their culture like? Those things matter too, don't they?
You're absolutely right. Investors often overlook the importance of leadership and company culture.
Yeah.
It's crucial to assess the quality of the management team, their track record, their vision, and their ability to execute.
And a strong company culture can be a powerful advantage. It can help attract and retain top talent, fuel innovation, and foster customer loyalty.
Precisely. So how can we get a better sense of On Semiconductor's leadership and culture?
Well, we could dig into their annual reports, read interviews with executives, even check out employee reviews on sites like Glassdoor. Those sources can give us valuable insights into the company's values, how they treat their employees, and their overall approach to doing business.
Excellent suggestions. It's all about putting together a complete picture. Their CEO, Hussein El-Khoury, seems to be a real game changer. He took the reins back in 2020 and hasn't been afraid to shake things up, really pushing the company towards those high-growth markets we've been talking about.
Right? That definitely lines up with the strategic moves and the investments that they've been making. Sounds like he's got a clear vision for the future of On Semiconductor.
Exactly. And from what I've gathered, he's a pretty hands-on leader, too.
Okay.
Deeply involved in the technical side of things.
Interesting.
Has an engineering background.
Okay.
So he really understands the nitty-gritty of what they do.
That's got to be a huge advantage in such a complex industry. It
Huge.
allows him to, like, really make informed decisions and guide the company's innovation effectively.
Exactly.
Absolutely right. And it seems like he's fostered a culture that really values innovation and agility.
Yeah.
Employee reviews mention a collaborative and fast-paced environment,
Right.
which tells me they're able to adapt quickly to the ever-changing demands of the market.
Yeah, that's a great sign. A company with a strong culture of innovation
Yeah,
is more likely to stay ahead of the curve and develop those breakthrough technologies that drive future growth.
couldn't agree more. And it's not just about developing those new technologies, it's about getting those innovations to market quickly and efficiently.
Speed is everything in the tech world. A company that can bring innovative products to market
Right.
faster than its rivals has a serious edge.
Absolutely. So it seems like on Semiconductor has the leadership, the culture, and the strategic focus to potentially make a real splash in these high-growth markets.
They do. But
Oh,
let's play devil's advocate for a moment.
okay. Yeah, what could go wrong? What are some potential red flags investors should be aware of?
One concern that comes to mind is execution risk.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they've set some pretty ambitious goals, especially when it comes to grabbing market share and expanding those profit margins.
Right.
But reaching those goals requires flawless execution across every aspect of the business.
Yeah, it's one thing to have a brilliant plan. It's another thing entirely to make it happen.
Exactly. And the semiconductor industry is notoriously tricky.
Yeah,
It's complex and cyclical.
right,
They'll need to manage those supply chain headaches, predict those shifts in demand,
right,
and really outmaneuver their competitors if they want to achieve lasting success.
right. And don't forget about those geopolitical risks that we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah, good point. Trade tensions, tariffs, government regulations.
Any of those things could throw a wrench in their plans and impact their bottom line.
Absolutely.
So after all this, what's the verdict? Is On Semiconductor a buy, a hold, or a sell?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah,
As always, it all comes down to your individual investment goals, your risk tolerance, and your time horizon.
right.
If you're a believer in their long-term vision, you're comfortable with the inherent risks, and you're willing to be patient, then On Semiconductor might be a worthy addition to your portfolio.
Okay.
But if you're after a quick return or you're a bit more risk averse,
Mm-hmm.
it might be best to watch from the sidelines for now.
That's really good advice. Do your homework, weigh the pros and cons, and make an informed decision that aligns with your investment strategy.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Investing isn't a one-size-fits-all proposition.
So we've covered a lot of ground here on
Yeah.
Semiconductor's financial performance, their long-term vision, the potential risks and rewards, even their position in the broader industry landscape.
Right.
But ultimately, the decision of whether or not to invest in On Semiconductor is up to you.
It is. Do your research, consider your own financial goals,
Mm-hmm.
and make the choice that's right for you.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive and you want more insightful stock analysis delivered straight to your feed, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon so you don't miss out. We'll be back soon with more in-depth looks at the world of finance. Until then, happy investing.